have to really get your past clear. You have to get out of it. You have to get out of the wake. You know, the wake is the trail that is left behind, right? The wake doesn't drive the boat. It's just a trail that's left behind. It's an illusion to believe that the things that happened to you in your past are the reason why your life isn't working today. You can go to therapy for the rest of your life and analyze it and figure it all out, but it still all happened. And in a universe in which there's an intelligent system guiding every single aspect of it, every mosquito, every snail, all of the passageways inside of your body, and all of the glorious ways that the planets all align with each other. There's one force in the universe that's flowing through everything, that there's no mistakes in it. And I think for me, two things really happened that I really strongly urge you, before you go any further, before we go any further here, is to really examine the wake of your life and to understand that it's just a trail that is left behind, and to let it go and merge yourself into the present moment, which is where God is. God isn't going to be doing anything different an hour from now than God is doing now. And God isn't doing anything different right now than God was doing an hour ago. So that God is all there is now. Just now. And any time you are not here now, you are away from God. And any time you are away from being at peace, you have sent God out of your life. So connecting on a spiritual level, on an energy level, which I'll go into great depth later, is really removing yourself from your past. I've written about this in a book a few years ago called You'll See It When You Believe It. But for me, the real turning point in my life came when I was able to finally, once and for all, practice this thing called forgiveness. There's a Chinese proverb that says, if you're going to pursue revenge, you'd better dig 2 graves. And of course, Mark Twain's famous line about forgiveness. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. On the heel that has crushed it. And I tell you this, and I say this to you because, not to elicit any sympathy, because in my way of looking at the world, and all of the writing that I have been doing this past quarter of a century, and particularly in the last year with the spiritual solution to every problem, I have come to a very serious awareness that everything in the wake had to happen, and the evidence for it is that it did. That's the evidence. That's all the evidence you really need. And if you'll just stop for a moment, and this is a little weird, and I'll point it out, but in a universe which is endless, in which there is no such thing as time, in which there are no beginnings and no ends, and in which we are all infinite souls, there is an infinite number of times that we can be here, incarnated in any number of ways, endlessly. I mean, when you think of no beginnings and no ends, that used to be one of the hardest things for me to do when I was a child. And it still is when I really contemplate it. The idea of being dead for 1,000,000 years is not a problem. Is it for you? 1,000,000 years? You say, all right, I can wait it out. I'll just be dead anyway. But forever? Like another 1,000,000 and another 1,000,000 and then 4 billion more, and you haven't even gotten started yet on how long you're going to be dead. The endlessness of it all, the infinity of it all, the no beginnings and no ends, the no boundaries of it all, is almost too startling to comprehend when we are coming from our egos, which have beginnings and ends. So that, who's to say, do you know who the most influential person in my life was? The person who has allowed me to come here and to speak about these things on these tapes and on this program? The person who has allowed me to write and express and experience the kinds of things that I've experienced, and to grow in a spiritual dimension. You know who the most influential person in my life was? My father. This man who walked out when I was born. This man who had absolutely nothing to do with me, and the only reason I went to his grave was to find out if my name was on the death certificate. That's all I wanted to know. Did he even acknowledge in death that he had a son named Wayne? And he did. But who's to know that God and Melvin Lyle Dyer, before he incarnated in 1915, had a conversation. And God said to him, "What do you want to do in this trip around?" And he said, "I'd like to teach one person forgiveness. So I'll go there and I'll just be an asshole." And that's what I'm signing up for. And there'll come a time when my youngest son will have to forgive me. And in the process of doing that, he will teach millions of others. Who knows? Who's to say?